One of the last things that Ron Searle's mother asked him to do before she died was to make sure her father's legendary adventures were made into a book. Back in 1889, George Park and his brothers were the first to canoe solo across Cook Strait. They were also the first to take their canoes from the west to the east coast. Now, it is fair to say at 91 years of age, old Ron left his run quite late, but this week in Hokitika, he fulfilled his dying mother's wish. Here's Robyn Janes with the story of those magnificent men in their Rob Roy canoes.
The canoe trip are the most extensive and daring nature. It was as bold in its conception as it was plucky in its execution.
These ancient yellowing newspaper articles detail incredible adventures.
It's a very valuable possession of our family, yes.
Relics of unsung heroes, the Park brothers.
Now this is Grey River, August, 1887. The wharfmen were a little astonished yesterday afternoon on seeing a tiny boat coming in over the bar. The enterprising gentleman who was navigating her was Mr. Park of Hokitika.
91-year-old Ron Searle is the grandson of George Park. With his brother James and William, George pioneered canoeing in this country in the late 1800s.
Well, I can't help but think that I must have got some of my adventuresome spirit from it.
Now, come and grab that. It's heavy, yes, it weighs 80 pounds, 40 kilograms. And it's exactly the same weight as the original.
This is a replica of the Rob Roy canoes the Park brothers paddled on their adventures. Steve Moffat had it replicated from one of the originals.
Push, push!
Steve is the great-nephew of George Park. 4 years ago, with his mate Steve Gurney, he reenacted George and James' epic 1890 coast-to-coast journey.
To me in particular, it was really important that I walked in their footsteps, and indeed I did feel as though they were looking over my shoulder.
While Steve Gurney had all the modern gear, Steve Moffat did it the hard way, like his ancestors.
Oh, stop! Stop!
Over 13 days, they dragged their canoes up the Taramako River and hauled them 960 metres up and over Harper Pass.
Woohoo! The top of the world!
Then they paddled across Lake Sumner, down the Huranui River to the sea, and along the coast to Littleton.
They were tough. And they took 2 of these boats over Harper Pass. We took 1 and we were knackered.
They were tough pioneers, their canoes at least twice the weight of modern ones.
The world's greatest offshore paddler is going to paddle my boat. I just think it's a privilege.
Who better to try out the Rob Roy than Paul Caffin, the first person to circumnavigate New Zealand in a kayak.
Like paddling a bit of history.
He reckons the Park brothers were legends.
If George hadn't been sidetracked by the girlfriend and getting married and raising a family, I think I wouldn't have been the first to bow around the South Island.
For Ron, though, it's not the coast-to-coast journey or the Cook Strait crossing. It's George's regular 60-mile trip across the Hokitika Bar and down to Okarito that means the most.
I had a Sheila down in Okarito, and he caught her by canoe out the Hokitika River here and paddled and sailed down to Okarito, and I'm very pleased he did catch her because they had 2 daughters, one my mother, Grace Jane Park, and Dora, Auntie Dora. Well, the great day's arrived. Been waiting on this for a long time.
It was Ron's mum who wanted a book written, and this week in Hokitika, where it all started, those magnificent men in their Rob Roy canoes was launched. The stories gleaned from that old scrapbook full of newspaper clippings.
Well, when I read it, I was really blown away with its contents. I said, right, we've got to use these stories.
As for Steve Moffat, well, he's planning to reenact the Park's 1889 Cook Strait crossing this summer.
William and George paddled across Cook Strait, and they started in the dark, and Gurney's going to do it again in a flash, probably something with a kite or something crazy like that. So, and I'll plod across with Frankie.
And Ron, he's just pleased he's finally fulfilled his dying mum's wish.
I think it's lovely, yeah. Well worth waiting for.
Geez, doing well for 91, don't you reckon? Now, for details on, you know, how you can get the book and all of that sort of thing, there's a link on our Facebook page. That is all we have time for.